Huh? Could it be? I was checking my phone at the OB-GYN clinic when someone suddenly spoke to me. I looked up and there was my husband's colleague, whom I had met before. Like me, she happily patted her big belly and said, "You're having your second child already. Seeing your belly, I wonder if our due dates are the same." Second child? I admire you for being so quick. Your older child is only about 6 months old, right? I was confused because I didn't understand what she meant. Truth be told, this child I'm pregnant with is indeed my first. Well, this is only my first. Her expression froze when I replied. It felt odd. I immediately questioned her about it. What she revealed afterwards was an unexpected truth. My name is Erica Adams, and I'm 28 years old. I work as an apparel salesperson in a department store. My husband, Christopher, and I have been married for only half a year. We met not at work, but at what you might call a blind date. Christopher works for a typical average company, and his income and benefits are about average too. It's a little tough to live on his income alone, but I also work full-time, so that's not an issue. I would like to have children someday, but if I were to give birth, I would have to take time off work, even if I didn't want to. To be prepared for whenever that time comes, I have been diligently saving money in my daily life. On the other hand, my husband Christopher isn't that cooperative. And whenever I try to save money by making boxed lunches, he flat out refuses.
Huh? Boxed lunches? I can go to different restaurants with everyone from the office for lunch, you know?
But didn't we agree to save money together? To do that, we have to start with what we can.
It's fine to save money, but where to cut back depends on individual values, right? I want to go out to eat with everyone for lunch.
So, Christopher, where do you plan to cut back?
Huh? Well, various things. I'll do my best in my own way, so isn't that good enough?
Huh. Okay. Even though we've only been married for half a year, this is the state of our relationship. Although we got married because we loved each other, the discrepancy in our values was bothering me. And what's more, even though a year has passed since we got married, we still don't have any children. It's not that I didn't want them. I simply thought it wasn't the right time to have children yet. Moreover, over these past 6 months, my husband has been spending money as he pleases without particularly focusing on saving. He doesn't hesitate to spend money on lunch expenses, gaming purchases, or sneakers he desires. His monthly income isn't particularly high, so he ends up spending almost all of it within a month. From the beginning of our marriage, we've been contributing $1,000 each per month towards living expenses. At some point, my husband started saying,
"I like to reduce it, even if it's just by a little."
Just recently, he made such a request to me.
"Sorry, Erica. Can you reduce my share of this month's living expenses a bit?"
Huh? Why? Didn't we already cut it by $100 last month?
Yeah, but you see, things have been a bit, tough.
Tough? That's why I suggested it, didn't I? I thought it'd be better to make boxed lunches to save even a little money.
That's not what I meant. Anyway, just reduce it by $100, okay?
Okay, but make sure to manage it properly next month. Looking back, I feel like my husband's been coming home later and later over this past half year. There have been more days when he's had to work on weekends, leaving the house empty. Despite overtime clearly increasing, why is it that our living expenses aren't enough? We must be spending it on something, but whenever I ask, he just evades the question. I really need to do something about this situation, I thought one day, and then it was announced that there would be a barbecue at my husband's company. It was mentioned that employees' families could also attend, so when my husband invited me, I decided to join. While his company has a high proportion of male employees, it's not awkward at all. As I sipped tea on the sidelines, a stranger approached me. Nice to meet you. You're Miss Adams, right?
Yes, that's right. Are you by any chance my husband's colleague?
I'm Lisa Kerr, and I work in the same department. I heard you and I are the same age, so I naturally felt a sense of closeness.
Is that so? America Adams. My husband always speaks highly of you.
Oh, that's great to hear. I hardly have anyone of the same age around. Indeed, there seems to be a lot of younger new hires and older individuals, and there aren't many people around our age, right?
Most of the women I spoke with who looked young were temporary workers. The older women, on the other hand, are mostly part-timers. There are probably really few full-time female employees. That is probably why someone as close in age as I am was so valuable to Lisa. We had a lively conversation, and I was able to forget about the usual frustrations with my husband and enjoy a good time after a long time. When I got home, I approached my husband.
Christopher, thanks for inviting me today. It was so much fun.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. You seemed to be chatting happily with Lisa, huh?
Oh yeah, Lisa is really nice and we hit it off.
Is that so? Lisa is good at her job and probably the most powerful female employee.
Wow, she must be really impressive. She does seem like someone who could handle the job well.
And her memory is amazing too. She remembers almost every company we've dealt with and what she's been in charge of.
In my opinion, Lisa doesn't seem like the type to be deeply engrossed in her work, despite her outward appearance. It might be rude to say, but this just proves that appearances can be deceiving. I can't help but admire someone who not only has such a glamorous appearance, but also excels at work and has a good memory. Inspired by her, I began to immerse myself in work from the next day onwards. I tried to do everything myself and support others as well. However, on the other hand, the misunderstandings with my husband grew. My company hardly ever has overtime, no matter how busy it gets. But lately, I feel like my husband's been coming home even later than before. Up until now, he used to come home by 10 p.m. at the latest, but recently it's become normal for him to return after midnight. With more overtime on weekends as well, I decided to ask about the reason for this one day. Hey, Christopher, lately you've been coming home really late. Is work that busy?
Huh? Yeah. There are a lot of new tasks and stuff starting up.
But still, past midnight? Isn't that way too late? Is that really okay with the company?
It's fine, really. It's just for now, and it's not like this all the time. Anyway, Erica, there's nothing for you to worry about.
Well, if you say so. His vague responses left me feeling uneasy, but pressing him now probably won't get me the answers I want. For now, I decided to observe his behavior a little longer. However, even after 6 months, my husband's overtime remained unchanged, and the opportunities for us to meet as a couple had also become fewer. We no longer went on dates like we used to on weekends, and I found myself going out alone more often. On this particular day, since my husband was working on a weekend, I went out alone. I took a train in the opposite direction of my usual route and decided to visit the newly opened shopping mall. Being freshly opened, it was incredibly crowded. As I strolled around looking at various shops, I heard a familiar voice from behind.
Hey, over here. Come this way.
It was unmistakably my husband's voice. I instinctively turned around, but with so many people around, I couldn't quite catch sight of my husband. Though I caught a glimpse of what seemed to be his figure, I lost sight of him amidst the crowd. What's going on? That was definitely Christopher's voice just now. If it wasn't him, who called out to me? Then who? That evening, I decided to wait for my husband to return home and ask him about it. As soon as he arrived home after 11 p.m., I broached the project. Hey, Christopher, where were you today?
Huh? What are you talking about? It's a holiday, so obviously I was at work, right?
I went to the newly opened shopping mall and heard your voice, Christopher.
Huh? The newly opened shopping mall in the neighboring city?
You knew about it?
Well, it was rumored, but I was at work, so I didn't go to a place like that.
My husband was clearly flustered, insisting on his weekend work schedule, considering his behavior was clearly different from usual. I became convinced Christopher was lying. Since then, I began to closely monitor his actions. Just then, I began to feel nauseous all the time. Why am I suddenly feeling like this? Did I eat something weird? The feeling of nausea, accompanied by physical discomfort, lasted for about a week. Summoning my courage to go to the hospital, I was shocked to find out I was pregnant. Due to our concerns about our savings, we had been meticulous about contraception. But as I experienced pregnancy firsthand, my anxiety gradually faded, replaced by a feeling of happiness. When I told my husband about the pregnancy, he was overjoyed.
Huh? Pregnant? Seriously?
But there seemed to be a hint of tension in his expression. Apparently, I had a predisposition to severe morning sickness. I had intended to keep a close eye on my husband's suspicious behavior, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. 6 months later, I safely entered the stable period of my pregnancy, and my morning sickness finally began to ease. Until now, the severity of my morning sickness had required my husband to accompany me to the hospital, but that was no longer necessary. I was able to go to the OB-GYN by myself, and while waiting to see the doctor at the reception desk, I routinely browsed baby products on my smartphone. It was at this time that I was suddenly approached at the hospital. Huh? Could it be? When I looked up, there was the familiar figure of my husband's colleague, Lisa. She joyfully stroked her belly, which was about as big as mine, and said, "You're having your second child already. Seeing your belly, I wonder if our due dates are the same." Lisa? It's quite challenging to be pregnant with a second child when the first one is still small, isn't it? And by the way, were you pregnant with your first child during the barbecue we had before?
Second child?
You're admirable for being so quick. Isn't your older child about 6 months old?
I was confused as to what Lisa meant. Truth be told, this child I'm pregnant with is indeed my first. With a mix of confusion and fear, I cautiously spoke up.
Lisa, this child is actually my first. Huh? Your first? This child?
Yes, this child is my first. As I answered, her expression froze. Something felt off. Trusting my instincts, I immediately confronted her. Hey, Lisa, why did you think this child was my second?
Well, that's...
Tell me, I can't ignore this.
Erica,
She looked awkward throughout, avoiding eye contact. But then, as if she had made up her mind, she looked at me and slowly spoke.
Actually, I saw him at the park a little while ago. Christopher was walking around holding a small child.
Huh? Christopher was?
The child didn't seem able to walk alone yet, and size-wise, it seemed like it had been about 6 months since birth. I didn't see you around, so I just assumed Christopher was taking a walk alone.
Did you hear this from my husband?
At that time, I only caught a glimpse from the car, and I was suffering from severe morning sickness, so I had already quit my job. I couldn't inquire further about the truth. I'm sorry for saying weird things.
No. Thank you for telling me. Lisa left with an indescribable look on her face. Meanwhile, I was filled with boiling anger. I see. So that's what happened. The overtime increased because he was cheating, right? Moreover, he has a child with the other person. I absolutely can't forgive this. After finishing the checkup, I approached my husband, who was watching TV in the living room. Without delay, I immediately confronted him after he greeted me with, "Welcome home." Hey, Christopher, I ran into Lisa at the hospital earlier. Huh? Lisa? She's been having terrible morning sickness and quit. I've been worried about her. I heard something from Lisa. She told me you're having your second child already. Huh? Christopher? You know something, right? Christopher's face drained of color, and I sensed his agitation. He began to stammer desperately, his eyes shifting. What are you talking about? A second child? Maybe Lisa just got the wrong idea. Haha. Right, that's what I thought too. But she saw you herself. You holding the baby. That's impossible. I don't have a kid. I found it strange. Your overtime hasn't increased your salary, and you've been working weekends more often. Lisa mentioned it. There's no weekend work at his company, she said. Ugh. Yes, I was listening to another important story from Lisa. It was about overtime and working on weekends. According to her, my husband's company only does overtime until 8 p.m. at the latest. She said there had never been any weekend work. So no matter how much overtime he does, it's strange for my husband to come home after midnight. Even on the days he said he was working weekends, he was actually going somewhere else, not to the office. Hey, where were you and what were you doing? When I questioned my husband, he started trembling uncontrollably. Perhaps realizing he couldn't keep hiding, he slowly opened his mouth while looking down. At her place. Her? How long have you been dating her? Well, she's actually my ex-girlfriend. I got her pregnant, so I've been visiting her regularly. Your ex-girlfriend? So what about the child? Is it yours? Yes. I felt alternating waves of anger, frustration, and disbelief at myself for choosing such a pathetic man. I'm willing to break up. Please, forgive me. My husband tried to dismiss everything with such words, but I shouted at him. Don't you dare joke about this. What do you think you're doing to our child? You talk about breaking up so casually, but because of you, the child from your affair won't have a father. And yet you're all about self-preservation. You're too selfish. No, it's not like that. I just want to prioritize you, Erica. It was just a momentary lapse with my ex-girlfriend. It just happened in the heat of the moment. What? It's disgusting to hear that now. After you've been doing whatever you wanted all this time, now you're trying to act like a saint? I refuse to let a jerk like you become the father of this child. It's utterly shameless of you to impregnate both me and your ex-girlfriend at the same time. I'm so sorry. I apologize. Please forgive me. Shut up, you scumbag. Don't ever come near me again. Rot in hell, you piece of garbage. Sorry, but you'll be paying alimony and child support. Got it? Be prepared for that, okay? My words left Christopher crestfallen. Ignoring him, I packed my things and left for good. Without a word, he watched me leave. Afterwards, with the help of my parents and in-laws, I divorced Christopher. A few days later, I hired a lawyer and sued both him and his mistress for damages. I made sure to demand child support from him for our unborn child. For him, already struggling financially, this was a significant blow. He resorted to borrowing money to cover the expenses. Eventually, news of his affair leaked to his company, resulting in his transfer to a subsidiary, another reason due to anger from the higher-ups. Now abandoned by his mistress as well, he works tirelessly to pay child support to me. On my end, I'm approaching my due date. It's a scary thought as it's my first time, but the anticipation of meeting my child soon brings a smile to my face. The absence of a father may cause this child to grieve in the future, but I will protect this child because I am his mother. We'll meet soon. Just wait for me. With these words, I gently pat my swollen belly. As long as I have this child, everything will be all right. I vowed to ensure the happiness of both me and my child.
My husband, a mama's boy, constantly insults my cooking, saying I should learn from his mother. His mother and I then took revenge.
My husband, a mama's boy, always criticizes my cooking. Together, we were invited to his family's home. After my mother-in-law crowded the table with dishes, she announced, "I've prepared plenty of my specialty dishes, so please eat a lot." "Yes, thank you, Mom. They all look really delicious." As we sat down and toasted, my husband began eating with great enthusiasm. So good. This is delicious. And this one is exquisite too." In high spirits, he kept eating more and more. Then he looked at me and said, Seriously, Mom's cooking is amazing, right? You should learn from her more. Huh? Even this fried sesame chicken is crispier than what you make, and the chicken stew has a deeper flavor. And the potato salad, that satisfying texture, 100 times better than yours. Yeah. Mom, despite being a career woman, is so good at cooking. You'll never be able to satisfy me if you can't keep up. Make sure to learn from Mom properly. My husband said so with a confident look. Then my mother-in-law quietly told me, I'm glad you're satisfied, but that... Afterward, my husband ended up miserably sobbing. My name is Holly Miller, and I'm a 30-year-old working wife. After graduating from university, I landed a job at a major cosmetic company, fulfilling my long-time dream. I worked in marketing and led a busy life within the company. Focused solely on work, I reached my late 20s without having a boyfriend. Concerned about this, one day a friend offered to introduce me to someone. Nice to meet you. I'm Julian. Wow, you're beautiful. I'm feeling nervous. At that moment, I met Julian, who would later become my husband. He was a white-collar employee at a major corporation. My initial impression of him was that he was someone masculine who could take charge. Apparently, Julian played football in college, so he had a sturdy physique. Even during our courtship, he took the lead and made things enjoyable. I gradually found myself drawn to him. After 2 years of dating, Julian proposed to me. Holly, there's no one else for me but you. Please marry me. Thank you, Julian. I gladly accept. And so we became engaged. I then took Julian to say hello to my parents, and they happily agreed to the marriage. After some time, we finally went to visit Julian's family. Julian's father had passed away a few years earlier due to illness. As Julian didn't have any siblings, his mother lived alone in the family home. Welcome, I've been waiting. My welcoming mother-in-law had a short haircut and an approachable demeanor. Mom, this is Holly. I want to marry her. When Julian introduced me, his mother nodded deeply. I respect what you guys have decided. Holly, he's a modest son, but please take care of him. I nodded too, and then we chatted for a while. His mother spoke to me. Holly, you work for S Cosmetics, right? Yes, that's correct. I work in the marketing department, and I'm busy every day, mainly dealing with advertisements. Actually, our magazine also handles advertisements for S Cosmetics. If marketing is your job, we might work together someday. Huh? Your magazine? When I asked, Julian proudly chimed in. Mom is the editor-in-chief of a famous cooking magazine. When I heard the name of the magazine, I was surprised as it was a popular cooking magazine I had read before. I thought she was stylish and exuded an unusual aura, but I never imagined my mother-in-law was such a successful career woman. It's nothing special, but I've worked hard since I was young. That's amazing. I admire you. As I expressed my admiration sincerely, my mother-in-law felt embarrassed. Then Julian intervened again. Mom juggled a busy job while also handling household chores and raising children. Pretty amazing, right? Yes, truly. I want to be like your mom. When I told her this, my mother-in-law gave me a serious look. Will you continue working after marriage, Holly? Yes, I love my current job and find it fulfilling. That's wonderful. It's an era where women shine in their careers. Julian, since you'll both be working, you and Holly have to help each other in life, okay? Julian nodded, saying, Of course. And I exchanged contact information with my mother-in-law. I was happy that my mother-in-law was a respectful woman. And on the way home, I said this to Julian. Your mom is amazing. I admire her. Right, Holly, strive to be like her. After such a conversation, we headed home. Afterward, Julian and I registered our marriage. We had a wedding ceremony and decided to rent an apartment together. Before moving in together, we had discussed the division of household chores. I was in charge of cooking, Julian of laundry. Cleaning was alternated during weekdays and done together thoroughly on weekends. We were both satisfied with these agreements. At first, Julian enthusiastically did the household chores. However, after 2 months of living together, he began to slack off on them. Hey Julian, you haven't finished today's laundry yet. I did everything up to starting the washing machine. Can't you finish the rest, Holly? I'm really sleepy. Ugh. Thus, I ended up doing Julian's tasks too. But there was another problem. Julian often complained about my cooking. One day, I'm home. What's for dinner tonight? I made fried sesame chicken today. Please wash your hands and come to the table. After washing his hands and sitting down, Julian immediately frowned. Julian, what's wrong? Something is off. The smell... Huh? Your fried sesame chicken doesn't smell the same as Mom's at all. Did you make it properly? I made it properly without cutting corners. Then Julian picked up the fried sesame chicken with his fork and put it in his mouth. Yeah, it's definitely different. Huh. The crispy texture of the batter isn't right. And isn't the sauce too bland? Is that so? Well, I can still eat it. Hey, Holly, why didn't you learn cooking from Mom? While eating in front of him, his words hurt me. After 6 months of marriage, Julian started slacking off on household chores even more. Even on weekends, when I was doing laundry and cleaning, he wouldn't get up. Julian, we promised to clean together on weekends. Saying this to Julian, he groaned sleepily. Come on, Holly, just do everything. Huh? Even though Mom was busy, she managed to do all the housework and childcare perfectly, you know? If you want to be like my mom, you'd better start working hard now, Holly. You're still far from being like Mom. I almost shouted, "This mama's boy!" but I held back with great effort. Julian brings up his superwoman-like mother-in-law in various situations. When he mentions my mother-in-law, I can't help but feel like I fall short of her. I suppress my thoughts and just focus on the chores at hand. Then one day, a decisive incident occurred. On this particular day, I was making a meal that Julian wanted to eat. Stewed chicken today. Let's see what you've got. Those words irked me from the beginning, but for now I watched as Julian took a bite of the stewed chicken. His face contorted in disgust. Ugh, awful. Huh? This stewed chicken was meticulously prepared while following a recipe from a cooking magazine. I had tasted it several times, and it was delicious. This is nothing like Mom's stewed chicken. Honestly, you never learn. There he goes again, mentioning Mom. Frustrated, I couldn't help but respond. All right. Sorry for not being your mom. Then, to my surprise, Julian glared at me and tossed the stewed chicken into the trash. Hey, you can't just throw that away. What are you doing? I protested, and Julian's temper flared. It's inedible, so I tossed it. Yet, you had the nerve to act rebellious? Hopefully, this teaches you a lesson, so you can cook as well as Mom. I had reached my limit. Throwing away a dish I had worked so hard on. It's just despicable. And to constantly compare me to his mother and put me down. I can't take it anymore. Alone at the dining table after Julian left, I found myself crying. And then, a few days later, I visited my mother-in-law's house alone. Holly, what's wrong all of a sudden? Where's Julian today? She asked with a concerned expression, and I broached the subject with my mother-in-law. Please teach me how to cook. Huh? Your cooking the other day was delicious, Holly. I don't need to teach you anything. Confused, I explained Julian's recent behavior to my mother-in-law. When I told her about him throwing away the stewed chicken, my mother-in-law's expression changed suddenly. What the heck? Did that kid really do that? Yeah, unfortunately. So, Mom, I want you to teach me how to cook. And also, I informed my mother-in-law of something I learned the previous day. She grinned and said this. I understand, Holly. We'll have to straighten him out. Huh? You don't need to learn from me. Listen carefully. Thus, my mother-in-law shared a plan with me. I happily agreed to it. 2 weeks later. Hey, Julian, isn't it your birthday next week? Oh yeah, that's right. I'll be turning 33. I told a happy Julian the following. So, Julian, how about having your birthday party at Mom's house? Huh? Your mom said she'd cook too. What do you think? Sounds good. I want to taste Mom's cooking again. She is thoughtful, huh? While Julian was on cloud 9, I sent a message to invite my mother-in-law with a wry smile. The response came back. Understood. Let's surprise him. On Julian's birthday, we bought a cake and headed to my mother-in-law's house. Welcome. I've been waiting. Happy birthday, Julian. Thanks, Mom. Thanks for giving birth to me. As we entered the living room, the table was packed with dishes. Julian's favorites, fried sesame chicken, chicken stew, potato salad. I prepared plenty of my specialty dishes, so eat to your heart's content. Yes, thanks, Mom. They all look really delicious. As we sat down and made a toast, Julian started eating voraciously. Delicious. This is great. And this one's fantastic too. In high spirit, he continued to eat. Then he looked at me and said this. Seriously, Mom's cooking is amazing, isn't it? You should learn more from her. Oh? This fried sesame chicken is crispier than yours, and the chicken stew has a deeper flavor. Even the potato salad, you know, the texture? It's 100 times better than what you made. I see. Mom is a career woman, yet she's so good at cooking. You'll never be able to satisfy me if you can't keep up. Make sure you learn from Mom properly. Julian said proudly. Then my mother-in-law quietly said this. I'm glad you're satisfied. Actually, Holly made all of these. Huh? By the way, the potato salad is from the supermarket. What? What are you talking about, Mom? This was made by Holly? And this is from the supermarket? Yes, she came over here last night. Holly made everything and kept them in the fridge. I just reheated them. All I did was buy the potato salad. The ones from the nearby supermarket are delicious, you know? Come to think of it, Holly came home late yesterday. But Mom, you said I've prepared plenty of my specialty dishes. I meant to say my proud daughter-in-law's dishes. Huh? Silence fell over the dining table, and it was broken by my mother-in-law. Julian, I heard everything from Holly, you know? It seems you've been belittling her cooking and bringing me into it, huh? Mom, I like cooking too, you know? But because I'm busy, I often rely on supermarket food and ready-made meals. Like this potato salad. You seemed to think I made everything, but that's a big misunderstanding. Is that so? With a serious expression, my mother-in-law continued. You were always taught to be grateful for the food served to you, right? Yes. Holly's food must have been very good, as you said yourself. So why did you criticize Holly's cooking or even throw it away? Then Julian began speaking reluctantly. Well, a senior colleague of mine said, the beginning of a marriage is the most important. If you throw away her cooking, your wife will become more docile and you'll have a better home life. I was utterly disgusted by those words. It seemed my mother-in-law felt the same way, as she sighed heavily, restraining her anger. It's truly helpless. To think you would hurt Holly, who is the most important? Holly, what do you think? When my mother-in-law asked me, I answered clearly. His words deeply hurt me every time. Maybe it's difficult for us to stay married. I'm considering divorce. As I took out the divorce papers from my bag, Julian turned pale. What? Divorce? I don't want that. But what you did qualifies as grounds for divorce, you know. When my mother-in-law said this sharply, Julian slumped, his large frame shrinking. I'm sorry, Holly. I feel like I've woken up. I truly think I was acting insane. Idolizing Mom and throwing away your delicious cooking. I was such an idiot. And Julian began to cry, feeling pathetic. Please, give me another chance. I'll do anything. So, are you going to stop dumping all the household chores on me? I'll do them, of course I will. It sounds ridiculous, but it took being faced with divorce to realize how important you are to me, Holly. I'm sorry for hurting you. Please spare me from divorce. Seeing Julian, a grown man, crying and repenting, I glanced at my mother-in-law and then turned to him. Finally, you get it, huh? Can I trust you? Holly, will you forgive me? Yes. Both your mother and I heard your words loud and clear. If you can't keep them, you're in trouble next time. Thank you, Holly, really, thank you. As Julian relaxed with a relieved expression, I said to him, Also, you need to learn how to cook. Huh? Me? Cooking? Even I might get sick and be unable to cook or end up in a hospital. Huh? Holly, are you okay? Are you sick? Turning pale, Julian shook my shoulders, and I smiled at him. From now on, do your best for the family, Daddy. Huh? Yes, the day before I went to consult my mother-in-law, I knew something. It was the fact that I was pregnant. Huh? Really? Holly, you're pregnant? I'm going to be a dad. Yes. Julian started shedding tears of joy this time. My mother-in-law and I smiled and watched over him. After that, Julian seemed to change and started doing household chores willingly. He seemed to realize the difficulty of cooking after learning from my mother-in-law and me, and apparently felt ashamed of his previous attitude. He sincerely apologized, so I forgave him with a smile. Holly, are you feeling okay? Today, I prepared some great dishes for the pregnant lady. Give them a try. To think I could hear such words from Julian. I once again felt grateful to my mother-in-law who made this possible. Time passed and I gave birth. The baby girl born was adorable, and Julian was already doting on her. My mother-in-law was genuinely delighted by the birth of her grandchild and always looked out for me. I now adore her like my own mother. I want to continue supporting and helping my beloved family, creating a home filled with smiles.
My husband and son mock me. Housewives have it easy. They just lounge around. I quit all chores, leading to an unexpected twist.
Stay-at-home moms have it easy, just lounging around all day. I mean, isn't mom basically just an unemployed person living off dad?
Suddenly, while we were eating dinner, my husband and son started insulting me. It happened just after I had returned to being a full-time homemaker, after years of caring for both my mother-in-law and my own mother. I couldn't believe it. After everything I've done for this family, to be spoken to like that. Fine, I'll live up to their words and spend my days in idleness. My name is Lauren, 42 years old. I live with my husband Mason and our freshman and high school son, Travis. Luckily, we were blessed with a child soon after getting married, and I gave birth to our son. I took maternity leave and returned to work after about a year and a half of childcare. It was around the time our son started elementary school. One day, Mason came home looking somber.
Lauren, I hate to ask, but could you quit your job?
Sorry? I was taken aback, unable to fully grasp this sudden request. Quit my job? Why?
Actually, it's my mom. She's finally reached the point where she needs care.
Your mom? I was aware she had weak legs, but was it that serious?
Yeah. Recently, it's become impossible for her to do anything on her own. So, I was thinking of having her move in with us.
Oh.
Please, Lauren. She doesn't want to go to a facility yet, and you're the only one I can ask.
His father had passed away, and she was living alone. Unable to leave her in that state, I reluctantly quit my job. And so, the grueling care of my mother-in-law began at our home. Her stubborn nature made my first caregiving experience incredibly tough. With a young son and a husband too busy to help, I was on my own. Even a slight lapse in dinner preparation would earn me complaints from Mason.
What's this, Lauren? Is this all for dinner? Please, tell me this is just an appetizer.
Sorry, but I didn't have time for her housework today because your mom was feeling unwell.
Stop making excuses. You're home all day. You could do it.
Well, yes, but...
Just make sure you prepare a more balanced menu, especially for Travis. He's growing.
How unfair. He doesn't help with the chores at all. And I'm the one taking care of his mother. But he never cooperates and just complains. As Mason began to nag me more, Travis also started to speak up.
Hey, Mom, I want steak for dinner today.
Oh, I made stew because you said you wanted it.
Dad says stew is easy to make. You just want to take it easy, huh?
What kind of way is that to speak?
I was just in the mood for steak today.
Once he got like that, his mood wouldn't improve. Years later, my mother-in-law's care became too much, and we had to place her in a facility. Around the same time, my own mother's legs worsened. She had me when she was already old, so she was considerably older than my peers' parents. Thus, I was thrust back into caregiving. From the time my son was born until he started high school, my caregiving duties continued. Between housework and caregiving, my days were completely consumed, leaving no chance for employment. After sending my mother to a facility, I finally found some time for myself, well past the age of 40. I decided to focus solely on managing the household perfectly and to use my free time just for myself. It had been a long time since I had lived such a leisurely life. Then, one day during dinner, Travis suddenly said,
Seriously, Mom? Aren't you just an unemployed person living off Dad?
I was taken aback, unable to understand why he would say such a thing out of the blue. Where did that come from?
But it's true. You don't work and just stay at home all day.
I've had to take care of caregiving duties, and now I'm taking care of the house.
But both of them are in a facility now. You don't need to stay home all day, do you?
Well, no, but... Hearing our exchange, Mason finally joined in.
Come on, Travis. Cut her some slack. It's mean to point out the truth like that.
Hey, you're supposed to be on my side. Don't teach him to say weird things.
Weird things? It's the truth. Stay-at-home moms have it easy, just lounging around all day,
he said, mocking me. I couldn't stand it and protested. Lounging around? I haven't spent a single day just lounging around since our son was born.
See, you get all defensive when faced with the truth. Grow up, will you? Right, Travis?
He said, turning to our son. Laughing, Travis exclaimed,
Mom's crazy.
Fuming, I asked them both, Are you two serious? Do you really think I just lounge around all day? They exchanged glances and grinned, saying,
It's not about what we think, right, Dad? Exactly. I work, Travis goes to school. We're both doing our best every day, while you just laze around at home. It's unfair. I wish I could just not study or do club activities. That'd be awesome. Yeah, if I could be reborn, I'd want to be a woman and a stay-at-home mom. Me too. Me too.
Clenching my fists under the table, I was outraged. Can they really be serious? After all the work I've put in for this family, why do I have to be treated this way? Despite my efforts in caregiving and housework, my family has never recognized my hard work. From that day on, my husband and son began to look down on me as if it were the norm. Just because breakfast was bread 2 days in a row, I was accused of being lazy and failing as a housewife. If there was a little dust in the room, I'd be yelled at for not even being able to pick up trash. If I served fish for dinner, I'd be ordered to make meat instead. I had reached my breaking point. After putting Travis to bed, I finally confronted my husband. Can we please stop this nonsense?
What are you talking about?
He replied, sounding annoyed and barely glancing at me. Don't play dumb. You belittle me every day, and because of you, our son looks down on me too.
Huh? That's my fault? It's because you can't do anything, right? You don't work and can't even manage the household properly.
How can you say that? After all this time, you haven't lifted a finger or helped with housework or caregiving. Aren't you ashamed?
That's your job. I'm out earning money, so don't complain. Just make sure you do everything perfectly tomorrow,
he said dismissively before returning to the bedroom. Despite setting aside time to talk, nothing was resolved. All that remained was my anger towards my husband and son. A few days later, while enduring their usual nitpicking during dinner, my husband and son dropped a bombshell.
Ugh, what is this? It's so bland. Dad, isn't this bad? Let me see.
They each took a bite of the meal I prepared and exaggeratedly grimaced, as if the food was repulsive.
What's this? You have all this time and you still can't cook a decent meal? You agree, right, Dad? This is such a letdown. I was tired today and wanted something good to eat, but this is just lazy. Right. Okay, Travis. How about we go out and eat something today? Yes!
That was the moment. My anger reached its peak. As they cheerfully prepared to leave, I calmly spoke up. I've had enough of this. What's wrong with you guys? Who do you think you are? They were taken aback by my unusually stern voice.
What's wrong, Lauren? Are you mad? Come on, Mom. Don't take it so seriously. It was just a small joke.
So you think you can say anything as long as it's a joke?
Lauren, calm down. Mom, we didn't mean anything by it.
Shut up. Be quiet. I yelled at them, my voice almost a scream. Enough. I'll live exactly as you say, just lounging around. Whatever happens, don't blame me. Just watch. With that, I locked myself in my room, ignoring their shouts from behind the door. From that moment, I decided to abandon all housework. The next morning, as I lay on the couch watching TV, my husband approached me.
Lauren,
What do you want?
did you have breakfast?
I did.
Oh, okay. And what about breakfast for me and Travis?
I didn't make it. I was too busy lounging around.
But you ate, right? Then make ours too.
Why? Didn't I say I'd be living a life of just lounging around? Just toast some bread or something. He reluctantly started to make toast. Then my son, who had woken up late, asked me,
Mom, what about my lunch?
Lunch? What's that?
Huh? My lunch for school. I have school as usual today.
Oh, really? I didn't notice while I was lounging around.
Hey, what about my lunch?
Without taking my eyes off the TV, I simply said, Well? Frustrated, he raised his voice.
What the hell, Mom? Not making lunch is just unacceptable.
Why? I'm just doing what you said, lounging around, not making breakfast or lunch.
Fine. Then give me some money. I'll buy something.
I don't have an income since I'm just a lounging homemaker. Ask your father.
What?
My husband was nearly in tears, facing a painful expense on his modest salary. Realizing the seriousness, he muttered a rare,
I'm off,
and left the house quietly. That night, my husband and son returned home at the same time. Naturally, I hadn't prepared dinner and was lying on the couch scrolling through my phone. Seeing this, my husband tentatively approached, trying to lighten the mood.
Lauren, by any chance, did you cook anything for
I didn't make it.
Right. Is there anything you want to eat?
I've already eaten, so feel free to do as you please.
Oh, okay.
Forced into a smile, he quickly left with my son. I guess they're going out to eat. The next day, I stopped even waking up early, adopting a completely idle lifestyle, waking up just before noon. Eventually, my son reached his limit.
I can't take it anymore. I'm sick of microwave meals and supermarket food. Clothes are all wrinkled when Dad does the laundry. Mom, please, go back to how you were.
Mason, too, reached his breaking point, pleading tearfully.
I agree. Lauren, please. Enough is enough. Go back to your old self. We can't take it anymore. Please be a decent homemaker again.
What? What does decent homemaker even mean?
I mean, I want you to go back to how you were before.
So, you're saying I was a decent homemaker before? Do you remember what you guys said to me? A homemaker just lounges around, an easy life for an unemployed person living off Dad. Remember? They looked at each other, turning pale. As my husband started to say,
It was just a joke,
I cut him off. A joke? Cut the crap already. Do you have any idea how hard I've worked for this family? Complaining without lifting a finger to help with caregiving? I'm not your effing maid. I'm leaving this house if you continue to look down on me." Shocked by my declaration of leaving, my husband and son immediately started apologizing profusely.
"I'm sorry, Lauren. I didn't realize how hard it was for you until it got to this point. Mom, I'm sorry too. I had no idea staying at home involved so much work. Both Travis and I have been reflecting on our actions. Please, don't talk about leaving. We'd really be in trouble without you. Please, I want you to make my lunches again. I'll even help out with the chores."
Seeing their desperation, Mamie burst into laughter. I never wanted to be mean. I just wanted them to understand that being a homemaker is tough. Helping them up from the floor, I slowly began to speak. I didn't give up on the chores because I wanted help. I was just sad you thought I lounged around doing nothing all the time. I'm sorry for acting so childish.
Lauren, Mom.
Well, if you both have come to understand how hard a homemaker's work is, that's all I could ask for. Prepare yourselves, though, because I'll be expecting your help from now on.
Of course. Leave it to me. I'll do whatever I can do.
Thanks. I'm counting on you both. It seems they really took the lesson to heart, and from that day on, they started to actively help out with the chores. Dinner on weekends became their responsibility. Now I can hear their voices from the kitchen again.
Dad, can I add the potatoes now? Yeah, probably okay. But the salad looks a bit off in color. Dad, you're just bad at plating. Like Mom says, the tomatoes have to go on top. Right, let's add some corn on top too then. Hey Dad, something smells burnt. Stay calm, Travis. You're the one who needs to calm down, Dad.
Listening to their chaotic conversation brings a smile to my face. It doesn't matter if what they make isn't perfect. It's the thought that counts. I take a bite of the meal they've brought over. Watching me, both my husband and son looked on nervously. I smile warmly at them and say, "This is the best meal I've ever had." They show relieved expressions. "It's really good," I murmur to myself. I hope days like these continue forever. With that wish in my heart today, like every day, I enjoy a joyful meal with my family.
On our anniversary, I drank my husband's wine and collapsed. My daughter screamed for help, but he left. Then I sat up and said, "Just as I expected."
On the day of our wedding anniversary, my husband and I, along with our daughter, sat around the table and enjoyed a cheerful meal together. Towards the end of the meal, my husband pulled out a long, slender paper bag.
Since today is our wedding anniversary, I've prepared a special wine. You like it, don't you?
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy.
I'll uncork it for you, just wait a moment. I think the wine opener was in the kitchen.
My husband said that with deliberate casualness, then got up and headed towards the kitchen. He returned shortly after with the wine poured into glasses, bringing one over to me.
Here, please have some.
Thank you, I'll take it. The moment I touched the wine that was offered to me, I let out a groan. I'm in so much pain. With a pained expression, I clutched my throat and collapsed on the spot. Seeing me writhing in agony, our 7-year-old daughter started crying and screaming. "Dad! Mom! We need to call an ambulance right away!" However, my husband merely looked down at me with cold eyes as I struggled and suffered. Beside him, our daughter kept tugging at his clothes, continuing to scream for help. When I became barely able to move, my husband brushed off our daughter's arm and left the house without a word. Just after the front door closed, I slowly managed to get up. Seriously, just as I expected. My name is Meredith Shepard. I'm a 34-year-old married woman. I'm somewhat of a recognized figure as a composer. Even after having children, I continue to provide songs for famous singers. Some songs I composed when I was single were even chosen as theme songs for dramas, which has allowed me to live a slightly more affluent life thanks to the royalties. I met my husband Kevin at the reception of a friend's wedding. He worked as a salesperson for a beer brewery, and our mutual love for alcohol brought us closer. Kevin was a bit of a free spirit, not one to think ahead, but those traits always seemed endearing to me at the time, I thought. We enjoyed drinking together on weekends and eventually got married a few years later. Soon after, we were blessed with our daughter Hazel. One thing I noticed after getting married was that Kevin hardly ever did any housework or childcare. Even after 6 months since Hazel was born, he seemed to completely ignore me, lounging on the sofa while I ran around busy. At that moment, Hazel, who was sleeping in her crib, started crying.
Hey, Meredith. Hazel's crying, you know.
Hold on, I'm using the stove right now. Could you please hold her for a bit?
Huh? It's such a hassle. Besides, Hazel probably prefers you, Mom.
With such excuses, Kevin kept his eyes glued to his phone. I sighed, I turned off the stove, and comforted Hazel. Hey, Kevin, I've been meaning to say this for a while. Could you help out a bit more with household chores and childcare? Doing everything alone is really tough.
Huh? Why me?
Why? Because I also work in between, and Hazel is our child, right? As I earnestly expressed this, Kevin chuckled dismissively.
Well then, why don't we just hire a housekeeper or a babysitter?
Huh?
Meredith, you're raking in royalties, right? Shouldn't that make things a breeze for you?
It's not like that at all. I want to save money for Hazel's future. And we agreed before we got married not to raise our standard of living.
Did we? Well, anyway, I'm tired from working outside, so you should handle everything at home.
He doesn't take things seriously and responds in this manner. I eventually gave up and started handling household chores and childcare by myself. Hazel has grown up healthy and is now 6 years old. My in-laws wanted to celebrate Hazel's enrollment in elementary school, so we decided to have a dinner party. They live about an hour away by car, and we have a good relationship. My father-in-law, Keith, has a strong sense of justice and dislikes dishonesty. Although he can be strict, he's very kind to me. On the other hand, my mother-in-law, Martha, has a calm and gentle personality and is quite charming.
Grandma, thank you for buying me the school bag.
At the dinner party in the restaurant, Hazel showed off her brand new school bag.
Hazel has grown so much, and it's all thanks to Meredith.
With that, my father-in-law tilted his cup towards me. I felt embarrassed. Oh no, not at all. Hazel is such a good kid, so she makes things easier for me every day.
Well, she's my daughter after all,
Kevin said proudly for some reason. I just chuckled and let it slide.
By the way, Meredith, I heard you're going to write the theme song for a movie next time.
In response to my mother-in-law's voice, I answered, Yes, it's almost finished and the movie will be released next month.
Kevin, you sure got yourself an amazing wife. She's quite a catch.
Although my father-in-law addressed Kevin, he seemed inexplicably unhappy.
But, you know, she doesn't exactly let me live luxuriously, even though she's making money, you know?
Huh? My in-laws and I were surprised, but Kevin continued regardless.
I mean, I thought being a famous composer would mean I could live a luxurious life too, but she hardly gives me any spending money, and she's so stubborn about not raising our standard of living. She's really stingy. Hold on, Kevin. What are you saying? Even the luxury apartment you're living in, Meredith bought it, right?
My mother-in-law scolded him, and my father-in-law followed suit.
That's right, Kevin. In general, it's the man's responsibility to provide for the family. If you have time to rely on Meredith, why not make an effort to increase your own salary? Yeah, I got it.
When Kevin grimly acknowledged, he fell silent. Despite feeling a bit awkward, I felt grateful for my in-laws' support. Was it around that time when Kevin started coming home late every night, citing busy work? Initially, I didn't pay much attention considering that salespeople often have frequent client meetings. However, even on days off, he wasn't at home, and when he did return, he was constantly on his phone. His attitude towards Hazel also became increasingly cold. One Sunday, we had plans we made earlier in the week, so I woke up Kevin, who was still asleep, to remind him.
Dad, wake up. It's already past 9 o'clock. You said we were going out together today, remember?
Then Kevin, who was lying in bed, pushed Hazel away without saying a word. Hazel fell on her bottom, her eyes welling up with tears. Hey, what are you doing? While holding Hazel, who was crying, I protested against him, but when he got up, he looked grumpy.
I have plans today, and I wanted to sleep a little longer. You're forcing me to wake up as always.
What? That wasn't the plan. Besides pushing our daughter like that.
Shut up. You guys are annoying. Get out of the bedroom now.
Hazel and I were pushed out of the bedroom, and Kevin after that dressed up and went out somewhere. What's with that attitude? Treating Hazel like that? I can't forgive it. While trying to appease Hazel's mood, I felt my distrust towards Kevin growing. Then, one evening, a month later, I was exhausted after a deadline at work that day, so I put Hazel to bed and fell asleep early. I woke up in the middle of the night, thirsty, and when I went to the kitchen for a drink, I heard Kevin's voice chatting happily from the living room. It seemed he was talking to someone on the phone. I wondered who he was talking to. As I strained my ears, these words suddenly caught my attention.
You're the only one I love, Julia.
I widened my eyes and froze. This was undoubtedly a conversation with his affair partner. My blood boiled, and just as I was about to confront Kevin, he uttered a meaningful phrase.
The execution will be on our anniversary 3 days from now. Everything will be according to plan.
Hearing the content of the conversation, I shrank in fear. What? Kevin was cheating on me? And to think he had such a terrifying plan? I quietly recorded his conversation on my phone and returned to the bedroom before Kevin arrived. He soon came into the bedroom and started snoring heavily beside me. I couldn't sleep at all that night. The next day after Kevin went to work, I stayed home alone and organized my thoughts. At first, I was overwhelmed with sadness from the betrayal, but gradually intense anger started to build up. So that's how it is. Well, if that's the case, I have my own plans too. Just wait and see. I bought surveillance cameras from an electronics store and installed them in the house. And so, on the anniversary that arrived 3 days later, Kevin began speaking to me kindly from the morning.
Meredith, today is our wedding anniversary, right?
Yes, it is. Did you remember? I responded casually.
Of course. Lately, I've been busy with work and haven't been able to be home much. But I'll be back early today to celebrate our anniversary together as a family.
That's wonderful. I'll be preparing a feast at home, so look forward to it.
Oh, Meredith, I love you.
Kevin smiled at me and went to work as I pretended to know nothing. Meanwhile, I proceeded with the preparations for the plan methodically. As 6 p.m. approached, I waited at home, having prepared a feast for Kevin's return. Welcome home, Kevin.
Welcome back, Daddy.
Hazel seemed delighted to see Kevin returning earlier than usual. I am about to show her a hell of a scene. I silently apologized to Hazel in my mind.
Whoa, what a feast. Let's dig in right away.
We gathered around the table and enjoyed our meal with cheerful conversation. As we neared the end of the meal, Kevin pulled out a long, thin paper bag.
Today is our wedding anniversary, so I prepared a special wine. Meredith, you'll like it, right?
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy.
I'll uncork it for you. Just wait a moment. Let's see, the wine opener was in the kitchen, right?
My husband said so deliberately and got up from his seat, heading towards the kitchen. Then he brought the wine poured into the glass to me.
Here you go.
Thank you, Kevin. I'll have it. The moment I put the wine offered to my lips, I let out a groan. I'm in so much pain. With a pained expression, I clutched my throat and collapsed on the spot. To see me writhing in agony, our 7-year-old daughter started crying and screaming.
Dad! Mom, we need to call an ambulance.
However, my husband only looked down at me with cold eyes as I struggled. Next to me, our daughter continued to tug at the hem of his clothes, screaming. When I became unable to move, barely breathing, my husband brushed off our daughter's arm and left the house in silence. Just after the front door closed, I slowly sat up. Wow, just as I expected.
Huh? Mom?
Seeing me acting cool, Hazel was left dumbfounded. I embraced my daughter, tears and snot covering her. Hazel, I'm sorry. This was just a prank. I'm sorry for surprising you.
Huh? A prank? Geez, Mom, I was really surprised.
There were some people watching us dumbfounded from the shadows. Kevin returned home late at night.
Hey, Hazel, are you already asleep?
Saying that, Kevin enters the house. I turn off the lights in the living room and hide in the darkness. Welcome home, Kevin.
Huh?
When I turn on the lights in the living room, Kevin gasps. Seeing me standing there nonchalantly, he collapses in shock.
You? Why?
Why aren't I dead, you mean? He looks up at me with a face almost bursting with rage as I inform him with a smile. That why was for pretending to drink. I knew about your plan. On the day I eavesdropped on Kevin's phone call, he said such things.
You'll provide the poison, won't you? You'll get me the tasteless, odorless stuff, right? She likes wine, so if you put it in wine, she'll be all over it. Just make it look like she took her own life because of work stress. Once that woman is gone, everything will go according to plan. The insurance money on her, her royalties, this apartment, they'll all be ours. Let's start a new life with that.
When Kevin realized I had grasped the plan, he shouted angrily, his face turning red.
You? Were you eavesdropping?
Eavesdropping is such bad manners, huh? It's worse to talk about such things at home. Thanks to that, I narrowly escaped death. When I said this with a smile, Kevin began to tremble uncontrollably. He slowly took out an unfamiliar small bottle from my bag. He had probably put it there to make it look like I had taken my own life.
If I'm caught, there's no helping it. Then I'll shove this into your mouth right now. There's still time.
With a cornered expression, Kevin approached menacingly. Just as I tried to step back and escape, suddenly a loud voice echoed.
Kevin, are you not going to stop? Huh? Dad?
Standing there were his parents with a fierce expression.
Why are you and Mom here? We were called by Meredith and have been here since evening. Huh? We've been watching the footage from the cameras set up in another room all this time. I saw you pouring the contents of the bottle into the wine glass and putting it into Meredith's bag. My father-in-law pointed to a single surveillance camera. It captured the entire scene of my husband's actions, which his parents hiding in another room watched. Kevin had a shocked expression upon noticing the camera's presence. That's not all. I also recorded the contents of the conversations you had on the phone that day. I played back the recorded audio on the spot. His parents grimaced at the disgusting contents, and Kevin turned pale. Recorded phone calls and camera footage, and the wine you left unfinished earlier. With this much evidence, handing you over to the police will be easy. No, please.
Kevin first crawled towards his parents.
Dad, Mom, help me. You don't want your son to become a criminal, do you? You idiot.
My father-in-law hit Kevin with all the force he could muster. His mother scorned him as he was sent flying, looking at him like he was a piece of filth. Trying to kill Meredith was one thing, but what about that attitude towards crying Hazel? You're a disgrace as a human being. We no longer see you as our son.
We've already reported to the police a while ago. They should be arriving soon. You're going to behave yourself quietly.
Realizing he had been abandoned by his parents, Kevin staggered towards me with a tear-streaked and snotty face.
Meredith.
What is it? Don't come near me.
Meredith, please forgive me. If you don't press charges against me, I can avoid arrest. I only love you. Let's live happily together again with Hazel.
I shouted at Kevin. Are you out of your mind? Who forgives someone who tried to take their life?
I'm sorry. I'll do anything. Please.
I'll never forgive you or your mistress. You'll pay for your sins behind bars at most. In the next moment, Kevin slumped dejectedly as sirens approached from afar. Through lawyers, our divorce was finalized. Kevin's parents paid a hefty sum as compensation for the trouble. Kevin's affair partner seemed to be a pharmacy student. She tried to take my life by using poison obtained from the university. When I demanded compensation from her, her parents wired the money. I've decided I won't forgive her either. Kevin went behind bars, but neither his parents nor I visited him. They say they'll take Kevin in once he's released. They promised to find him work on a tuna fishing boat through relatives. If he never comes near me and Hazel again, that's fine. On the other hand, I've moved to a distant place with my daughter and lead a peaceful life. I told Hazel, Daddy went far away for work. But when she said, he doesn't need to come back anymore, I couldn't help but smile a little. From now on, I will look forward to my daughter's growth, work hard at my job, and live positively.